Hello again, and welcome back to week 29 of year 5 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is day 3. We're continuing through the book of Acts. Last time we saw the conclusion of the Apostolic Council in Jerusalem and the letter that they sent to the church at Antioch, directing that the Gentile Christians should be treated as non-Israelites living among the people of God and should be expected only to observe the elements of the Torah that applied to them, which is to say, abstention from idolatry, abstention from eating blood, and abstention from sexual immorality. We also saw St. Paul leave once again to visit the churches in Syria and Cilicia, accompanied by Silas, who seems to be one of the 70 apostles of the Lord from during his ministry in the Gospels. This time we will see how his journey proceeds. Paul went on also, this is chapter 16, Paul went on also to Derbe and to Lystra, where there was a disciple named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. He was well spoken of by the believers in Lystra and Iconium. Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him, and he took him, and had him circumcised because of the Jews who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. As they went from town to town, they delivered to them for observance the decisions that had been reached by the apostles and elders who were in Jerusalem. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and increased in numbers daily. They went through the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been forbidden by the Holy Spirit to speak the word in Asia. When they had come opposite Mysia, they attempted to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus did not allow them. So passing by Mysia, they went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision. There stood a man of Macedonia pleading with him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." When he had seen the vision, we immediately tried to cross over to Macedonia, being convinced that God had called us to proclaim the good news to them. We set sail from Troas and took a straight course to Samothraki, the following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is a leading city of the district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. We remained in this city for some days. On the Sabbath day we went outside the gate of the river, where we supposed there was a place of prayer, and we sat down and spoke to the women who had gathered there. A certain woman named Lydia, a worshipper of God, was listening to us. She was from the city of Thyatira and a dealer in purple cloth. The Lord opened her heart to listen eagerly to what was said by Paul. When she and her household were baptized, she urged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my home." And she prevailed upon us. Okay, so there's a lot that's covered in this, because Paul begins in the corner of Asia Minor and the Middle East, that region of Cilicia, which is a fertile country and at the foot of the Taurus Mountains, leading from Asia Minor towards Antioch. But Paul's going the other way, from Antioch through Cilicia, which is his home country, and then over the mountains, as it seems, and back to Derbe and Lystra, where he had been before. Now, maybe he took a boat. It doesn't really say, but it would be. But saying that he went to Derbe and Lystra first, and then continued, I think he's traveling overland, and then from Derbe and Lystra, in the fairly far east of Asia Minor, he makes his way through some of the different provinces, avoiding those that God tells him to avoid, and ends up at Troas, which is Troy, basically on the shores of the Aegean Sea. And from there, he has this vision of someone from Macedonia asking him to come and help them. So, in a major, significant move, those who preach the gospel leave the continent of Asia and go over into Europe and begin to preach in what we would know as modern Greece, or perhaps one of the other Balkan countries. And again, everywhere that they go, they are explaining how the Gentile Christians are to interact with the Torah, with the law of Moses, following those essential things from the Holiness Code in Leviticus, and otherwise living a righteous and faithful life, as we talked about in our Day 2 reading, doing the essential deeds, the actions of a faithful life. So they go through all the areas that they preached before, visiting and strengthening the churches, preaching in new places further to the west, and then they begin to preach even in Europe, in the northern Balkans. And this woman Lydia, who's a worshiper of God and a businesswoman, she believes they are baptized, and they invite the travelers, the apostles, to stay in her home. So this is the foundation of the first church among the Greeks, at least the Greeks in Greece. So that's striking because I think from this moment, we might see the origins of a great many of all of ourselves. We can trace our Christianity back to this instant when the gospel is brought to the Greek-speaking peoples in Greece. Anyway, I might be overemphasizing that, but it's a big moment regardless. So God bless you all. We'll see you next week.